I am serving on the Waco City Council representing District 2, which includes Baylor University. And I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to discuss these platforms about the importance of the Hispanic culture and the contributions we make to society. I really do hope that you enjoyed tonight's discussion. I know there are some great panelists in store and some wonderful questions that the panelists have been preparing to answer. And so once again, I want to say welcome you. I want to say that I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversations. And I also hope that you come in with an open mind, ready to learn something new and exciting. God bless you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leo Robles. I'm the Latinx Coalition representative here at Baylor. And I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. I first want to introduce everyone real quick. So first we have Mr. Joshua Rizzo. He's a Baylor alumni and digital brand designer. We have Benjamin Gomez, also another Baylor alumni, and he's the franchise system specialist at Neighborly. We have Amanda Nolan. She works here at Baylor, providing full support for the departments housed within the Office of Engaged Learning. And last but not least, we have Catilia Vasquez, who is also a Baylor alumni and the administrative specialist at Transformation Waco. So first, I wanted to ask you all a few questions. We have a line of questions available for everyone. I first wanted to put it out there real quick because since we are here talking about young Hispanic leaders in the area, we've had some people ask from the organization standpoint of student organizations here at Baylor, they want to know as a Hispanic student organization, how can we better serve Hispanic-focused areas of Waco and our Hispanic community? And I want to give that first to Catilia Vasquez.
Thank you, Leo. I'm actually really glad to have this question, or to start off this answering of this question, because, so for those who don't know, I work for Transformation Waco. We are an in-district partnership with Waco ISD. We manage 5 of Waco ISD's schools. So the first thought that came to mind when I saw this question was it would be great for the HSA to have more of a presence in our schools. Currently with COVID precautions, at least for Transformation Waco, our doors are not open to volunteers at this time. But when we do open the doors to volunteers safely, so I think the HSA could really plug into our campuses. Specifically of our 5 schools that we manage, the first campus that came to mind was Alta Vista Elementary. That is our only campus in the South Waco community, which, as many of us know, is a highly Hispanic community. Particularly that school is about a 70% Hispanic population. So even though Baylor's like athletics and fraternities and sororities do come out for special events, I think that a regular presence of a steady set of volunteers of the HSA at that school could be so beneficial to those students in particular. They could see a Baylor student who looks like them, who isn't tied to athletics. You know, I think it's important for students to know you can go to college on your academic merit alone, you know, other reasons too, but specifically academic merit. And so I think that would be a great opportunity for HSA. And if anybody is interested in it, you know, feel free to email me, call me. I am the only Catelia in all of Waco ISD, probably all of Waco. So I'm not hard to find. And I'm happy to connect anybody to, we call them a family support specialist at our campuses. And I can connect you to that individual at Alta Vista. They know the ins and outs of that campus, so they would know where to plug you in.
Awesome, thank you very much. I wanted to relay this same question to our Councilman Hector Sabudo. I actually was wondering, for this question for you, being a councilman, how, like, is there any are there any way that student orgs can help in the legislative process here at Baylor, or to better serve our Hispanic community?
Leo, that's a wonderful question, and I will say the answer is yes. There are many opportunities where Hispanic students and the Hispanic Student Association can get involved at the local level and at the public policy level. Please keep in mind that, you know, My job is to represent not only my constituency of Waco, but also of Baylor University. And so it is very important for me to know what's important for you. And so with you having constant communication with myself and knowing how to get involved and active, and even knowing those things that are important issues to you, we don't realize it, but a lot of the decisions that are made on the local level impacts us the most. And so it's important that our students and our graduates are engaged in the political process, whether it's visiting city hall meetings or whether it's serving on boards and commissions. It's very important that we as Hispanics and people that are in Hispanic organizations get involved locally in the city and in the county.
Thank you very much for that insight, Councilman Sabilo. Staying on this question, I know Benjamin Gomez, you work as the franchise systems at Neighborly. I see them when I see the Neighborly signs and I walk or go into Cameron Park. So I was wondering, given the same question, what do you have for I'll repeat it, sorry. How could Hispanic organizations here at Baylor better serve the Hispanic focused areas of Waco and help our Hispanic community?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Lil. So the people that have come previously before me, you all touched on everything. I think one of the things that Hector touched on as well was making a conscious effort to identify the need that the Hispanic community has, and then working with your respective organizations and even other organizations at Baylor and in the surrounding community to address some of those needs. I mean, Baylor students, college students in general, are full of energy. So find the initiative or the project that you're most passionate about and really volunteer your time to bring it to fruition. One of the things that could be a learning opportunity is there's many, like Hector said, there's a lot of different projects, initiatives, and also organizations that you can get involved in at the community and learn a lot more that'll compound your growth outside of your regular studies at Baylor. So one thing that I can think of in particular is if you are not part of the Hispanic Leaders Network, I would definitely get involved with it, because for some of the individuals who want to stay in Waco, that would be the perfect grounds to increase your network, to understand other Hispanic leaders that are doing great things in the community, and spark your initiative of getting involved directly with Waco and learning as you go along. Because I can tell you one thing that I've been able to take advantage of is the fact of when I knew more people, more opportunities came to me, and that allowed me to then learn more as I kept going along, and then that's helped me in my career as well. So again, but just a really quick plug, if you're not part of the Hispanic Leaders Network, I would definitely recommend getting involved.
Awesome, thank you, Benjamin. Real quick, speaking about the Hispanic leaders, where can I find information to join that?
Yep, so you can find us on Facebook. You can look us up on Google. As a matter of fact, myself or Hector can get you plugged into the Hispanic Leaders Network if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to put that out there for people who are looking. Yeah. Still, like I said, I want to be on this question. I think I'm going to bring in Amanda Nolan. I know that you work here at Baylor, so I wanted to bring you in with the same question on how student organizations can help the Hispanic community, not only of Waco, but how to bring the Waco Hispanic community to Baylor, or if there's any way we could do that.
Sure, absolutely. Kind of, again, to echo what Councilman Hector said, as a Hispanic-based organization, you can help in simply just sharing knowledge and simply sharing the different avenues for Hispanic people to become involved. There might be times where Hispanics just might not feel like they're invited if it's not a full-blown Hispanic thing going on, and so they might just not show up. So I think just sharing information and giving support for different things happening in our community would be a great way to serve Hispanic focused areas.
All right, thank you all very much. I'm gonna segue this a little bit to our next question, which is, what is the best way to educate and incorporate the public about Hispanic culture and heritage without leaning into the side of cultural appropriation, or while still being, for lack of a better term, like to stay like woke enough to be not crossing cultural appropriation lines. And Joshua Rizzo, I know you're a digital brand designer, so I was wondering if you had any input on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. That was a really big thing kind of that we had to answer when I was at Baylor and we started the Festival Latino. Was like, how can we go about celebrating our culture and like not, step on anyone's toes? And so that's also the time when like the Latinx Coalition had just started. And so really a lot of the conversation kind of just geared towards, let's just hone in on what we know about our own culture, and let's stick to that. Like if it's not your own culture, like if it's outside the realm of your own, you have to really connect with people who are a part of that culture and listen, and really just kind of learn to both celebrate and respect that, like there are boundaries that can be set, but also can be celebrated, that like, oh, we are of Hispanic heritage, but we also within that heritage, within the Latino cultures, we have different, boundaries. And so I think the best way to educate is to be a part of these events, be a part of these celebrations, learn, be celebrate Hispanic leaders in the community. Just go out and make the effort to learn. So really just kind of step up as creative leaders, as Hispanic leaders, your own engagement in the community and in these programs.
Thank you for that question, for that answer. I apologize. But yeah, I wanted to also know, or to bring back in Amanda Nolan, because that issue of cultural appropriation, I feel like I deal with a little bit, being that I work in the Hispanic Student Association. I am Mexican American, and I try my hardest to not only show a side of Hispanic and Latino culture that is uniquely my own experience in being a Mexican American, but I don't want to step too far into something I don't know. So I was wondering, like, how, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but the one thing I'm going to focus on is I think one of the best ways to educate the public about Hispanic culture is to help them have a open mind and just a better understanding as to what Hispanic culture actually looks like, and that we're all not the same. We do not all look the same. We do not all speak the same. We don't all think the same. And I just think that there is a much more broad world out there that a lot of people haven't really tuned into, and our Hispanic culture is deep, but I think it's definitely expanded into a beautiful community of many different types of people.
Thank you very much. And then Catilia Vasquez, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on this too. This idea that I know we want to educate and incorporate the public about our Hispanic culture. But I was wondering, is there any issues? I know you said you work in the schools here in Waco. I was wondering, is that something that you'll have to deal with as well, trying to educate the young students, but still not trying to get into the cultural appropriation aspect of it?
Well, I think it's just a matter of us as a culture taking ownership of that education. An example of that would be at one of our campuses, Brook Avenue. We had a parent group that in their work together noticed that there was a gap in Hispanic celebrations at their campus. And so they took ownership of that gap, saw that opportunity to address it. They came up with a plan, presented it to the principal, and they wanted to have a moment to celebrate Dia de los Niños at the campus as a first celebration, and as an opportunity to educate the students, educate the community of that school. Mind you, the celebration ended up not taking place because Dia de los Niños fell, right during COVID. But when I heard of their plans, I was so proud of them, because that's a perfect example of us as a community seeing a gap somewhere, taking ownership of that education and addressing it. So yes, there are gaps. It's just a matter of us being responsible to educating and taking control of that narrative.
Thank you for that. That was very insightful. I want to start moving on to a little bit more of a personal issue or a question that we've gone to. We talked about how us as Latinos and Hispanics can go about sharing our culture, but I was wondering, being of Hispanic descent or being a Latino or Latina, do any of you ever feel like imposter syndrome? And if so, if you felt it before, if you could give us a little insight on when and how you combated that feeling. First, I actually want to give this to Councilman Sabido, if that's all right.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you again, Lil, for the question. I would be lying to you if I told you that I've never had those insecurities within me, because I may not have grown up like some of my peers or those that I surround with myself on a daily basis. But I also think it's very important to know that to be your true self. A lot of times we think, I have to conform to society's way of being, or I have to conform to where my circle of influence is. But I think the real person is the authentic you, and being raised with those goals and the morals that your parents and your family raised you. I think that's key, and I think people will be able to see the real you and appreciate that more. I think as we begin to move forward, I'm not sure who said it, one of the panelists said earlier, but we come in all shades of color, all different colors of eyes, different ways of hair, different colors of hair, but we all have that innate Latino pride within us. And so I think it's also important that just because I might look different from you or speak differently from you, it doesn't make me less of a person. Or even among our own culture, sometimes we think, well, they're less Hispanic than I am because they don't speak Spanish. And we have to get it through our minds that we're all different. And that should not, because my weaknesses might be your strengths, or vice versa. It doesn't make us better than the other. It just makes us different, and we appreciate each other's differences.
Thank you for that. That was really insightful. And I actually wanted to continue this conversation on to others of y'all here on the panel. I was gonna ask Joshua Rizzo, have you ever felt this idea, like kind of the idea, but have you ever felt imposter syndrome going into your career, or and if you have, how did you combat it?
Yeah, thanks, Leo. To answer your question, yes, I have felt that. Like when you run a business, when you're doing things actively in the community and in Waco, in any environment, really, the question always comes up, especially if you're about to speak to a panel. It's like, well, am I, like, who am I to be a part of this? Like, am I, like, what if they find out that, like, I'm a fraud? Like the idea behind the imposter syndrome, right? So you're going to get this question a lot in your own head. And that's the thing that we really have to think about, is like, if this were to play out, like, you have to ask yourself, okay, let's say somebody found out I was a fraud. What does that mean? Like my strategy for it is like, let that play out in your head, and then figure out that, like, the worst that can happen is maybe you'll be embarrassed if you say something wrong. But if you were, for everything that it is that you do in your life, like if you're going to Baylor, or if you're going to some college, or if you're in a position at work, you were chosen to be in that position. Like there's an application process for for all of these things. And so you were empowered, you were chosen to be in this position. So like, even if you don't believe in yourself, somebody out there does. So, it's a combination of like playing out the scenario, and also just being able to believe in yourself and others, and trusting that others are putting you in this position for a reason.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. If you're chosen to go somewhere, like I, for one, had a little bit of imposter syndrome when I first transferred here. I had a little bit of that transfer shock and wondering like, oh, am I really, smart enough to be here at, Baylor University? So thank you for that. Again, I wanted to continue this question. I wanted to ask Benjamin Gomez, repeating the question, have you ever felt imposter syndrome? And if you did, how did you combat it?
Yeah, Leo, that's a really good question. So again, just like Councilman Sabido said, I would be remiss if I said I'd never felt it, but I truly feel it all the time, to be quite honest. It occurs whenever I'm in those rooms with individuals who are either more successful than I am, perceived to be more successful than I am, or are just more educated on the topic at hand. They already have their thought processes down. They've got their habits of how they're going to address the issues we're facing. And, I feel like if I'm not at that stage in my development or my thinking process, then I really shouldn't be in the room. The reality is that I'm much further along in my development than what I think I am. And I have to constantly remind myself that, they're much further in their development than what I am. And I have to remind myself that I'm in this personal growth plan of mine and I shouldn't compare myself with other people, right? So one thing that I try to do is encourage myself to focus on the elements that I can control, which are my effort, which are my attitude, and my response to adversity, and stay committed to my own improvement. I think Josh said it really well, which was, you're in the room for a reason. Somebody believed in you, and ultimately you have a value that you can bring to the table. So entrust that because you're in the room, somebody saw something in you that you can contribute at a much higher level than what you think. But sometimes, and oftentimes, out of those three things, my effort, my attitude, my response to adversity, the things that I can control, everything else is going to resolve itself in some form or fashion. So just have trust in yourself that if you're in the room, you have that value to add, and then just add away.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I still want to stay on this topic. I think it's actually very important because I feel we all really feel this at one point or another. So I wanted to open up to Katilla, if you could show us your insight on this topic.
Yeah, I think I'm just echoing, everybody before me, but I think this is a common issue that we all face. I do struggle with imposter syndrome. A great example would be when Cuevas invited me to speak on this panel. I just thought, oh my gosh, are you serious? Are you sure you want me on this panel? But I think we all question that. I think we all question, have we, at some point, right, have we earned this space? And I think it really is a matter of reminding yourself that the position that you hold, the spaces that are given to you, the opportunity that are given to you, they are provided to you. You earned those. They weren't just handed to you. I know that's something I have to remind myself whenever I question, my role in my organization. The way I combat it myself is, I remind my peers, what my role is. I try to establish boundaries in our roles and just make it very clear, like, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm doing, respect that boundary. But also, like, I have to remind myself, I earned this spot. This spot was not handed to me. I worked really hard to get where I am, and I need to own that. So that's something that I'm working on constantly.
Yeah, thank you very much. I definitely agree with what you were saying. And lastly, I didn't want to get this question to everyone. Amanda Nolan, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about it. If you've ever had imposter syndrome, especially because you work here at Baylor, I understand that, our institutions at PWI, I was wondering if you ever had imposter syndrome because, you are Latina before. Does your culture or your ethnicity ever come into a place of that? Or is it something that is separate from imposter syndrome?
I would think specifically with Baylor, I thankfully have never come across feeling like I did have imposter syndrome, but definitely on that topic, I have experienced it in my career. I am kind of a different avenue than what everyone was talking about, but I worked in the Dallas corporate world for about 10 years prior to moving back to Waco and starting at Baylor. And during this time, I also danced professionally for the Dallas Stars for 2 years. Training to be a professional dancer is hard work. You sacrifice a lot. And it got to the point to where at work, I honestly tried to keep it a secret because people would automatically label my character. They would automatically think that my IQ level dropped just because what I did outside of work. And, that definitely made me doubt myself. I had to prove daily that I was skilled enough to work there. And there were definitely times where I didn't think that my abilities were high enough to do the job. But in the end, like everyone else said, it is definitely about staying true to yourself and knowing your worth and knowing what you bring to the table.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm thankful to everyone who put in their instances of having imposter syndrome. I'm going to segue over to the next question I have. Again, still being on a more individual level, but I was wondering, how can I make my degree profitable? Is there anything that I can do specifically that can be over a variety of majors, or is it major specific? And I wanted to start this off with Joshua Rizzo, because I understand that you have a business of your own as a digital a graphics designer.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I was really excited about answering this one, particularly because I think the way that I approached my degree was very, I don't know if I could say it was very unique, but it was definitely a very effective way of doing it. And I think from the conversations that I used to have with a lot of my friends at Baylor was very much like, you know, your degree kind of took you on a career path. And that never resonated with me, and I never understood why until I opened my own business. And that was because your degree to me is meant to be used as a tool to enhance your career, not as like your career path. So what I did when I got out of college was I pursued my passion, which was web and graphic design, and actually connecting with the community, in the entrepreneurship community to be specific. And I found a need of people, you know, need to grow their websites, grow their online presence. And so I decided, you know what, since I like building sites, I like being a part of the community, I'm just gonna go ahead and pursue this. And I used my degree in graphics to enhance the user experience, to enhance the visuals, to just make that like a better product for my customers. And what that ended up being was a very successful product so far. And it made a lot of sense to use my degree rather than to like act as if it was my career path. So I think that answers the question, but yeah, that's just the way that I would say is like, make sure that you pursue your passion in whatever it is that you're doing in your life, because your passion is going to drive you. Your passion is going to take you far places, and your degree can be used to enhance that career path.
Thank you for that. If you don't mind me asking, what did you get your degree in?
Yeah, I got a degree in fine arts with a specification in graphic design.
Awesome. Yeah, I do want to keep this going. I wanted to get a multifaceted view on this, because I'm wondering if making your degree profitable is major specific, but as Josh said, it's not so much a career path as much as it's focusing in and showing what you do. As long as you follow your passion, you will find success. I wanted to offer that again to Councilman Sabido. If you could let us know any ways I can make my degree more profitable, and also if you could tell us what you ended up majoring in your undergrad.
So when I attended Baylor and graduated from Baylor, I received my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. But shortly after that, I went on to receive my Master's in Business Administration, and so completely different than what I did my undergrad in. I think it's fair. I have to agree a lot with Josh said. You know, I think it's very important that the degree that you have and that you acquire that degree, whatever your area of expertise or specialty or interest might be. But I also say there's another side to that coin. I think the experience that you enhance also goes a long way. And that's the way you can make your degree more profitable, is by gaining diverse and different experiences, whether that be through serving on organizations, whether that be going into a field for a few years that's completely out of your norm or out of your realm. But also, I think the third part to that would be not to be afraid to take a leap of faith and be an entrepreneur like Josh did, and start your business and see what can come from that, and not be afraid to tap into different streams of revenue, because in the end, I mean, that is, we want to have success and everything, but we also want to be able to make a healthy living for ourselves and our family. So I think your degree, along with your experiences, and not be afraid to venture on new ways of revenue stream, I think all those could be profitable, and that's how you can utilize your degree a bit more and give yourself an edge versus the competition.
Thank you for that. I'm actually a Bachelor of Art in Psychology right now, so it's good to know that there's multiple ways if I ended up not wanting to do clinical. But I also wanted to offer this question up to bring back Amanda Nolan. If you mind telling us any ways I can make my degree, not my degree specifically, but just in general, more profitable. And I like adding this little tidbit. What did you study in your undergrad?
I have a bachelor's in journalism with a minor in marketing. But this is actually my favorite question because there are numerous ways to make your degree more profitable. There are things that I had no idea even existed when I was in college, but I do work at Baylor. I work in the Office of Engaged Learning and assist heavily in all the philanthropy and public service and civic engagement opportunity that our office offers. And there are a vast amount of scholarships, fellowships, and different awards that you can apply for in your degree area, outside of your degree area, that could give you the opportunity to potentially study your art in a different country, in a different culture, under some of the most decorated professors. But yes, there are so many opportunities out there that can further your degree and broaden your college experience. And I would be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have, or point you in the right direction if this is something that you're interested in.
Thank you. And if you could just say where you are or how people can contact you if they have any more.
Sure. Office of Engaged Learning. We are in Draper 244. Obviously, right now with COVID, our office is by appointment only, but you can email me if you like. It's Amanda_Nowlin@baylor.edu, and I'd be happy to help you out.
Thank you so much. I wanted to offer this question up again, but with the a little bit difference in how your Hispanic, your Hispanic background has aided you in maybe making it more profitable, or if that was ever a way you could do that. I apologize. I'm trying to mix my two questions in together and get more of a different answer. But I was gonna offer this up to Catilia Vasquez, if you don't mind. And I still want to keep with the idea. What did you major in your undergraduate career? I find it very interesting that we're seeing what people are majoring in maybe didn't lead them to the direct path that they did. Because I remember hearing that Amanda was dancing for the Dallas Stars at one point. So it's interesting to see, where things have taken you, or where you started and where they take you now.
Yeah, so my degree is in family and consumer sciences with a focus on child and family studies. And I don't necessarily use that in my job. Like I would not have thought that this was the path I would have gone. But my degree path ties to one of my values, and one of my values is family. And so I studied what I enjoy. While I was studying, I got involved with a practicum at, where was my practicum? Region 12. And so that tied me back to the education industry. But also, while I was a student at Baylor, I worked for an office in the School of Education throughout my entirety. So I've always worked in some form of education. And so it was just kind of a natural flow for me to end up at Waco ISD, which I started my job at Waco ISD like 3 days before I graduated from Baylor. So I've been there since I left Baylor. But all that to say is, I think it's a matter of, like what Josh said, it's a matter of like finding your passions. And for me, I would say it's your passions and your strengths. For me, I'm great behind the scenes, helping run things. So me being in the role that I'm in is really great for me. I started in a paraprofessional position in HR. And, I just showed what I could bring to the table. I showed my work ethic. I showed what I could produce. I showed how I could be an asset to an organization that greatly impacts our community. And by that, I've worked my way up to be in the position that I'm in now. And so I would say, I think it's more so, I think our degrees are a huge asset. We all worked hard for them, but I would say that like the key to making your degree profitable is more so you, the individual, what you bring to the table, your work ethic, your ability to connect with different people, and being able to show the asset that you can be to the organization of your choice. I think that that's where the key for your potential profits, it really is. I think it's you, the individual.
Thank you so much for your input. I want to relay this question, wrap it up with Benjamin Gomez. If you could tell us a little bit about how individuals can make their degree the most profitable they can.
Yeah, so I think everybody has had some really great answers to this. I may be a little bit more boring than some of y'all, but one of the things that I'm going to say is diversification of skill set. I think anytime that you're entering a job market, your value comes from your ability to work across multiple functions of an organization and ultimately to solve problems. And so in order for an individual to do that, they have to possess both hard and soft skills that are going to make them effective in their role. This could mean anything from learning a new language, increasing your knowledge of computers, or enhancing your leadership capabilities. I think one of the panelists said it correctly is probably the single most important skill that you can have is being able to engage and connect with all different types of individuals. I think coming from a Hispanic background, that's one of the things that you get to see that maybe not so many other people see is some of these the differences and from cultures and backgrounds and all of these different the uniqueness that people bring to the table. I think really concentrate on your ability to engage everybody at a table and make them feel inclusive in the conversation is really going to be key to driving exceptional results. Now there's two ways that you can go about increasing your hard and soft skills. Both is experience, like Hector said, and training and education. So education can be found really anywhere. It can be online, through your local community college. If you're in Waco, it's MTC, or pursuing an advanced degree. But I think experience is going to come from finding those additional engagements, those additional opportunities where you can compound your growth. What I mean by compounding growth is if you're a business major right now and you're studying really hard in accounting, finance, and all that stuff, why don't you find an additional opportunity that'll teach you some of the practical things that are occurring in those concentrations? Being able to stack them on top of each other is going to give you a lot more exposure to some of the problems that can occur within those concentrations and give you those opportunities to see what type of solutions are brought to the table. So again, that's what I think. Diversification of skill set, just finding those different ways to compound your growth.
Thank you for that. So asking really quick, you think that no matter what your degree is, that experiencing and compounding your skill set, it is almost better than whatever you get your degree in?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Josh. Your degree is going to be something that you're passionate about, that you are very interested in, and adding a different element to your person. But if you're wanting to take it a step further, you're still going to be able to do that, right? Whatever you get your degree in is going to be another avenue that you can explore when you're engaging in conversations with other individuals, and it's allowing you to connect a little bit better. But it's kind of just the old adage, we hear it all the time, but the experience part is going to make sure that you're bridging the theoretical, what you're learning in class, with the practical, which is what's actually happening in the organizations. And being able to bridge those two is going to be really vital in order to achieving the results that you want.
Thank you for that. I also want to wrap up with it. What did you get your undergrad degree in?
Yeah, so I got mine in supply chain management in the Paul Foster School of Business.
Awesome, thank you. I really like seeing where everyone was going, but I like this idea that we're talking about experiences and how they have aided you all in your occupations. And our last question of the night is talking about experiences, and it's I was trying to work it in earlier, but I think it works the best now. But how do you think coming from a Hispanic background has aided you in your experiences and decisions within your occupation today? I wanted to open that up and start it off with Hector Sabilo, Mr. Councilman. If you could fill us in on some of your experiences within your occupation and how being of Hispanic descent has aided you, or if it has, just give us some insight there.
Yeah, great question, Leo. I would say that those same values and principles that my parents instilled in me at a very early age have stuck with me throughout my career and my tenure. Even as I'm raising my own kids now, I'm trying to impart those same principles to them. But it's about working hard. Don't expect anything to be handed to you. And really, the future of my life and my destiny is in my hands. And of course, God number one, but then me second. And so I think those principles that my parents instilled to me which I believe is very common among the Latino or Hispanic culture, that ethic of working hard. I think it has pushed me to want to be better, also knowing that I have to try twice as hard as my counterparts because I feel like I have to prove myself sometimes. And so I just think those things of not allowing distractions to come my way, or really putting my mind to focus on the goal that I have. And then those are the things that drive me to push forward. And so I'm hoping that those same principles that my parents instilled in me, I'm also instilling into my children now.
Thank you for that. I'm really happy how you incorporated, what your parents have taught you into that. And so I actually wanted to continue with this question. If Miss Nowlin, I'm sorry if I mispronounced, is it Nowlin? Miss Amanda Nowlin, if you can come in.
Sorry, no, you're good. It's Nowlin.
Nowlin, okay.
Yeah, no, you're good. But to kind of echo again what Councilman Sabito said, Hispanics are known for being hard workers and having really, really good work ethic. And that is exactly what my parents and my family taught me, instilled in me from a very, very young age. You work very, very hard. You train very hard to achieve everything that you want to achieve. I was taught at a very young age the importance of working hard, of having good character, and the importance of living a Christ-filled life. And I think all of those things combined are why my path has led me to Baylor.
Thank you for that, for your input. I wanted to relay this question again to Josh Rizzo, if you had any input on this, on how you think coming from a Hispanic background has aided you in your experiences and decisions within your occupation and within your business.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think for me, coming from a Hispanic background and going through the school system at Baylor, and just living in Waco in general, starting a business, looking for resources, being of Hispanic background allowed me to kind of have those sensitivities of like, where is the Hispanic population? Where are the people that are bilingual, or the people that are Spanish speakers? Like, everywhere I go in my journey has been very kind of void of the culture that I grew up with. And so it's allowed me to see these gaps in, in the market, in the education system, in the fine art world. Like, it's very seldom that you'll see, a fine artist in Waco that's Hispanic. There's a few that's growing, and I love to celebrate them. I love to, find them, buy some of their art at, the art shop downtown. But it's really allowed me to kind of see these sensitivities and understand that, like, there's so much need in this community to really bring the culture out, because you hear these numbers, I don't know, 60% Hispanic population in Waco, and I'm here growing my business, not seeing, the Hispanic population, or not being able to speak to another Hispanic person. And so I'm thinking, like, well, I can notice these gaps, and now I can effectively, work on systems or work with other organizations to bring resources and to bring, more power to the population in Waco. So just kind of create more resources for the culture.
Thank you for that. I didn't know the statistic of the Hispanic population here in Waco. Going to school here at Baylor, I feel like the Baylor bubble has skewed my idea of Waco. But like I said, thank you for that. I still wanted to continue with this question. If Katila Vasquez, if you can come in, give us some insight on how you think coming from a Hispanic background has aided you in your occupation.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about the Baylor bubble because I think my experience was on the reverse, coming from Waco and Waco ISD schools and coming into Baylor. That was a shock. I was used to being surrounded by students who looked like me, and so that was a shock to the system at Baylor. So back to the question, I would say my Hispanic culture, my Hispanic identity has been a huge influence on, my career, the decisions I've made in my career and how I've gotten here. I echo what, everyone else has said before me, I think we all come from, these Latino households where we are a communal community. We open our homes and our hearts to people. We come from a service mindset. We always want to make people happy. And so that's something that I bring, and I've always brought. I bring that in my customer service, the way I talk to people. I always want to connect with people, and then just on a more tangible level, I use it in my day to day at work. If I have, we serve Spanish speaking families, and they need to have someone that they can speak to, that they know is listening to them, and they are heard. Their issues are heard. Their kudos are heard. They have to be able to communicate to somebody, and so I try to make myself, when we have events at these campuses, I try to connect with the families on a Spanish speaking level and let them know, there is somebody that represents these schools, that is on your leadership team, that looks like you, can understand you, can hear you. So I make an effort to do that. Even when I go out to the schools and I try to connect with the students, just try to get to know their names, tell them a little bit about myself, that I came from Waco ISD, and look at what I'm doing for the schools now. You can do this too. Like anything really is possible. You can be a kid from, below the poverty line, Waco, like me. You can work hard. You can earn your spot at Baylor. You can earn a leadership role. Anything is possible. And so I try to just open their minds, just like, I had mentors open my mind, and, just be that just loving person that, we all have that. We all have that in us as Latinos. We just want to just bring everyone in. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I definitely feel you on that, on the hugging and the exuberance of love that we have as a people. I definitely understand, feel you on that topic of coming into the Baylor bubble, because where I grew up in Pasadena, Texas, is a little bit of a Hispanic enclave. Most of the people I grew up with, or I was growing up with, all were Hispanic, spoke Spanish, did similar experiences. And coming to Baylor, it was a little bit of a shock, but I'm glad that not, coming from that wasn't an experience I had myself.
No, I think a lot of us do. I think for the majority of us of a Latino descent experience that. It's just a matter of finding your group, and just connecting with them, but also, connecting outside of your culture too, opening your mind to theirs and also bringing them into your culture. And again, that's an opportunity to educate, both ways. So it's manageable. You can do it.
Thank you for that. Staying on this topic, Amanda Nolan, how do you think coming from Hispanic background has aided you in your experiences here at Baylor?
Definitely. I was born and raised in Waco, and, I went to school at the University of North Texas, and spent, like I mentioned earlier, 10 years there, and then recently moved back to Waco last year. And, honestly, coming back into Waco after being gone for so long, I guess I never really noticed and felt the Hispanic presence in the Hispanic community. And even within Baylor, I have met a lot of wonderful people at different Hispanic functions that I've gone to that Baylor has hosted. And I just think there are tons of ways to continue growing and educating people. And like she just mentioned, I think it's beautiful how she said, invite people into your culture and, be invited into them, and just have an open mindset and willing to learn.
Thank you for that, Amanda. And I want to wrap this up with Benjamin about this question of how has your Hispanic background aided you in your experiences and decisions. I felt it was best to end with you, since you brought us into the topic of how compounding your experiences and skill sets really helped you.
Yeah, so I'll make it pretty brief. You become, being Hispanic and growing up in a Hispanic family, you tend to, you bring your hard work ethic, you bring your sense of culture. One of the things that I think you do in coming from a different ethnic group is you become more sensitive and aware of the uniqueness that people bring to the table, and especially in the workplace. if I can speak candidly, you know, Neighborly has a predominantly large white population, and so when a Hispanic coming in, I really lean on my heritage, my uniqueness to give me confidence in walking into an environment like that and ensuring that I still have something to bring to the table. You know, kind of going back to our imposter syndrome. Am I supposed to be here? And the answer is yes, because I have value. My uniqueness is what gives me the value that I can bring into the organization. Um, you know, in particular, it's enabled me to be able to contribute meaningfully, especially in the capacity of in a diverse and inclusive way. So, you know, my perspective, my values, and any cultural influences that I have will allow me to advocate for individuals, not just of my own ethnic group, but in other ethnic groups that are presented within whatever communities I'm a part of, to ensure that they're represented appropriately. So, yeah, that's yeah, just being able to bring and really lean on um, the experiences that I've had, the uniqueness, and being able to understand that I can contribute to something in my organization.
Thank you so much. That wraps up the questions the pre-selected questions that we had. I wanted to thank you all again for coming here and spending us some time, giving us some insight, and your willingness to participate on the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month. Hope the month's been a great month for all of you, and I want to bring this back. I want to bring Mr. Peacock back. I know we have some time left to open it up to some Q&A to our panelists. So we want to open up to the attendees. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists that you've been thinking about in being here in the panel, I also want to thank you for carving out some time from your schedules to listen to our panel. I hope you've enjoyed it. But if we can have Mr. Peacock come back in, I think he has a Q&A for us.
Thank you so much, Leo. And thank you to all of our panelists for such a great and such an insightful conversation. Not even being a student, I learned a lot. I was taking notes down the entire time. And so I want to say thank you again to our panelists for the work you are doing in our community and for the time you have taken out to kind of educate our students here on campus. And at this time, we do have a couple of attendees, so I wanted to make sure that in case you have any questions, you are given a space to ask those questions. So where I'm going to ask you now is that you place them in the chat. And if you don't have any questions, then we'll proceed with our closing, but definitely want to make sure that you all are given a space to ask questions to our panelists. And so at this time, I am going to just kind of be quiet for a second and have you all place things in the chat in case there's any questions. While we're waiting on that, if we can have our panelists, if you're okay, if you can just share your contact information and just let people know how they can remain engaged with you. How can they remain in contact with you going forward? So on my screen, first I see Benjamin. And so do you mind sharing a way to get people, that people can stay in contact with you?
Yep, I'm typing it in right now.
Okay. All right. Well, what about you, Amanda? Any way that people can stay in contact with you?
I will type it in as well.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. And so I see Josh, I see Amanda, I see Benjamin. So I just want to make sure that everyone have the chance to kind of share their contact information. And I don't think we have any additional questions. But that said, I will go ahead and give a closing. And the closing is that with my department here at Baylor, our purpose is to connect the Baylor community with the Waco community, because we are all one single community. And so through our Solid Gold Neighborhood Initiative, we seek out to do that. And with this particular panel, this is one of many initiatives where we're hoping to just bridge connection between all of our communities here within the Waco area. As we go forward, we want to make sure that you remain aware of the leaders that are within our Waco community, such as the ones who were on this panel, such are the ones you can find at the Hispanic Chamber, such as the ones you can find within the Hispanic Leadership Network. And so these are all people who are willing, ready, and waiting for you to kind of tap into the Waco community with open arms. That said, thank you again to our panelists. Thank you again to everyone that attended this evening. Thank you all who are viewing this event for the time you are taking to grow our community. You all have a great evening. I have a great night. Thank you, Leo, for the work you have done. Thank you.